Let's begin today's webinar, Do More with Microsoft Office 365, Get Approvals and Boost Productivity with DocuSign and Office 365. Today's speakers are Jamie Bothwell, Director of Product Marketing for Microsoft Solutions. Jamie leads DocuSign's go-to-market, global strategy, and business with Microsoft, our customer and partner. She's been with DocuSign for over 4 years. We also have Narain Murugavan, Product Manager at DocuSign, and working on the integrations to Office 365 and Dynamics. Narain's excited about helping users to be more productive with DocuSign. Thank you for joining us. Jamie, you now have the floor.
Thank you very much, Christine. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. Many of you have likely tuned in today because you've either recently purchased Office 365 or you're considering it. Moving your organization to Office 365 is fantastic, but how can you make sure that you're getting the most out of that investment? What's next? My name is Jamie, and I help drive DocuSign's partnership with Microsoft. I'm joined today by my special guest, the man behind the products that connect DocuSign with the various Microsoft solutions, Narain. And today we're going to discuss how to do more with Microsoft Office 365 and boost your productivity by using DocuSign to automate approvals and decisions across your whole company. To get us started, let's open up a first poll question. So we wanted to get a quick pulse to understand how many of you have already purchased Office 365. So as you can see, the options are pretty clear, yes or no. So we'll take a moment here and let everyone kind of chime in with their input. We're starting to get some results. Looking pretty good. Okay, it looks like a lot of the audience has purchased, which is fantastic. So I think for all of you, whether or not you purchased it or you're considering, I think you'll get some great value out of this session. So in order to move on to the next question, we're going to ask you to tell us a little bit about how far along you might be in deploying Office 365. So as we close out this poll, we're going to quickly refresh and ask you to share with us, for those of you that have purchased Office 365, how far along are you in that deployment? We know, from talking to customers that making the transition to Office 365 can be a timely endeavor. It can take some time. You can roll it out in phases. So it's always interesting for us to hear from customers on where exactly they are in that process. So we're getting some answers in here. This is great. It looks like there are some folks in the audience that are 100% deployed, which is fantastic. Congratulations. There are some others that are a little bit earlier on in their process. Very cool. Very cool. All right, we're going to close it out with the last few seconds, so get your answer in. Perfect. Wonderful. Very cool. That's very interesting for us. And as I mentioned, I think no matter where you are in your journey with Office 365, considering the applications that we've built for Office 365, I think can help you either jumpstart that deployment or accelerate it, depending on where you are. So many of you might already be familiar with DocuSign. Many people are familiar with us because of a real estate transaction. That's usually the first time people engage with DocuSign. There's a lot of documents involved in buying a house, and DocuSign can really help accelerate that process. And when people think about DocuSign, most people think about the signature piece. They think about signing on the dotted line. But DocuSign is much bigger than that. We're focused on the entire transaction from the beginning of that process to the end. At the end of the day, DocuSign is the fastest, most secure way to make every decision and approval digital. So you can really keep life and business moving forward. So we do that by addressing the pain and cost associated with this problem. So companies invest millions, sometimes millions of dollars in systems to automate processes at their company. But at the moment of truth, when they go to engage with stakeholders either outside their company or sometimes even inside their company, that process breaks, and they have to print, people have to sign on the dotted line, we have to fax, they have to overnight, and that process can be very painful and costly. The systems are then disconnected. What was a digital process is now manual, and the customer experience can be really negative. Also, this process can result in a lot of errors. So, sometimes documents don't come back, sometimes they get lost, sometimes information is entered incorrectly. So with DocuSign, we address that issue, and customers can keep transactions 100% digital and eliminate paper from all of these processes. As a result, not only do they save money, but also improve the experience for everyone and improve the security and compliance of that process. So in order to bring this to life, I wanted to quickly walk through a couple examples of how customers are using DocuSign in their business. So DuPont is a great one. DuPont has a team of sales reps that are often in the field meeting with business customers across the country. Before DocuSign, closing a deal could take many trips. It could also be slowed down by paperwork. Now with DocuSign-enabled tablets, DuPont reps can draw up a proposal and a contract and get the customer to sign it on the spot. LinkedIn is another great example. LinkedIn knows better than anyone that great talent has options. So LinkedIn decided to use DocuSign to send out offer letters to candidates. They can pull the documentation directly from their internal systems needed to create the offer letter and send the letter directly to a candidate. That candidate can then review that offer letter from wherever they are, be it at home on their laptop or on their mobile device if they're on the go, and they can sign their offer letter right there with DocuSign. And doing this digitally improves the overall experience for the candidates because we all expect things to be mobile and digital in this day and age. It decreases the average time to closing a potential candidate, and it increases their close rate overall. Finally, the last example is Silicon Valley Bank. So Silicon Valley Bank uses DocuSign to speed up new account openings. So new customers are able to sign in person using a tablet. The information needed to open an account is captured right there on the spot, and the data can be used to automatically set up the next step. So what makes all of these examples so powerful is that the process doesn't start and end with DocuSign. DocuSign is integrated into the systems that the companies use to communicate with their stakeholders, whether that's employees or customers. And for a lot of companies, many processes start in Office 365. So what we did was we worked closely with Microsoft to build integrations into the apps that you already love and use every day. And this makes processing an approval or agreement as seamless and as easy as possible. So we have 5 integrations or add-ins with Microsoft solutions. You see 4 of them here on the screen. The first is Windows 10. We've got a Windows 10 application or an app that works both in tablet mode and in desktop mode. We've got an add-in for SharePoint, works in SharePoint Online and SharePoint on-premise. We've got an add-in for Word, an add-in for Dynamics CRM, and then finally what you don't see on the screen here is our app for Outlook. So no matter which of these apps you're using in your business, the results you can expect are the same. This is about increasing productivity of your employees. So you're eliminating paper and enabling a fully digital workplace. You're reducing that cost and speeding up turnaround time and improving that customer experience. You're saving time with features like single sign-on, which is powered by Azure Active Directory. And then finally, you're enabling your users to conveniently sign and send documents for signature without having to leave Office or Dynamics CRM where they spend their time and get their business done. These add-ins also make it easier to centrally and securely manage all these company agreements. So what happens, for example, if one of your employees signs a contract and then they leave the company? With DocuSign, you can be sure those agreements are trackable, searchable, and always available to you. You can feel confident that your company's sensitive documents are legally binding, they're backed by a court-admissible audit trail, and are always available. Now, to bring this to life, there's no better way to do that than to show you them in action. So I am going to pass over to Noreen to demo a few of these add-ins for you.
All right, thank you, Jamie, and thank you all for joining. I'm really excited to have you all here and show you a demo of what we built and how you can use DocuSign for Office 365. So what I want to do first is give a quick overview of what we're going to show and then dive into a couple of demos. So the idea behind these applications and the reason we built these add-ins, like Jamie said, is to meet users where they are in the applications that they're using every day. We understand that people wake up in the morning and the first thing they do is they check their email or they log into SharePoint, and these are the productivity tools that they're using every day. So what I want to show you is a use case that we see that's very common, and hopefully you would be able to relate to this, is how people can use DocuSign for SharePoint Online. So I'm in a SharePoint Online site, and you can see that I'm in the Human Resources subsection. My name is Max Power, and I'm an HR employee. I'm an HR administrator working in Acme Corporation in charge of employee onboarding and human resources. So, know, when you start at a new company, you get a whole bunch of new hire documentation that you need to read, sign, and send back. This is something that you're all familiar with. You've all seen it before. Sometimes people FedEx you a copy and a giant library of documents, but with DocuSign, what you can do is keep that entirely digital and send that out straight from SharePoint, get a signature from your new employee, and have that returned to your SharePoint library all digitally, and you can get notifications on all of this and keep track of this process from any device and wherever you are. So what I want to show you is how easy it is to, for example, from my SharePoint library, I have all my new hire and HR documentation. It's pretty simple. I'm a small company here. But what I want to do is we've hired a new employee. Maria Campbell is going to start at Acme Corp next week. She's signed her offer letter. We're very excited to have her on board. But before she joins, we want to make sure she gets a copy of the employee handbook and signs it before she comes on board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select the employee handbook, and this is my system of record for Acme Corp. I've got all of my internal documents stored here, and I can easily go to the DocuSign tab. This is after installing the DocuSign for SharePoint Online add-in, and get signatures on this document. So once I click this, this is going to launch into the workflow that we've built, which is essentially embedding DocuSign within SharePoint Online. So what it's doing is it's taking that document and it's creating a DocuSign transaction out of it. And you'll see that this is actually built in with a very, very powerful feature that we have in DocuSign called templates. And what templates allow you to do, as it says in the description here, is use predefined recipients, roles, and signing tags. So what that means is when you send out an employee handbook, all employees need to sign it in the same place. So instead of having to go into DocuSign and tell people where to sign every single time, you can save that and reuse it again and again. So what we've done is we're actually intelligently matching the contents of that employee handbook that you've stored in SharePoint to a template that you saved in DocuSign. So this really saves you time and allows you to stay consistent and consistent with your internal business processes. So once I select that template, you'll see that it's pre-filled with a couple of roles that are already there. So like I said, every employee handbook needs to be signed by an employee. That obviously makes sense. So here I'm going to send it out to Maria Campbell, and all I have to do is enter her name and email address. And I want to make sure that HR gets a copy of this. So this is going to come back to me, so I'll know that once she signs it, I'll get a signed copy as well. And the signed copy of this document will also be saved in SharePoint Online. So I'm going to quickly just send it to me, Max Power. I'm going to click continue. And I can also send a nice welcome message to Maria. So welcome to Acme. We're excited that you're joining us. Please DocuSign the enclosed employee handbook. So once I've seen all this, everything looks okay. Now I can go to DocuSign for the final step to make sure that everything looks okay. So I can see that I have the first page of the employee handbook, and as you can see, since I used a template, all of the tags for DocuSign are pre-embedded. So what this essentially is just like a paper document where you can put little stickies on there and tell people where to sign. This is the exact same thing. You can drag all these fields on there and tell where people need to tell the recipient where to sign. So since I have a template, I've got this pre-configured. I can go ahead and delete this since I already have it. The rest of the handbook, everything looks good, and now I can go ahead and send this off for signature. So Maria is going to get a copy of this, and she has to sign this document. She'll be notified via email, the email address that I sent her, and now you can see that I'm taken back to SharePoint. But your document's been sent successfully, and I can continue on my work in SharePoint. Now I'm going to jump over to what Maria sees. She's the new employee. She's received this employee handbook. I'm going to her inbox, and you can see that she's received the employee handbook via DocuSign. And this is really powerful because she can be on any device. She could be on her computer, as I am right now. She could be on a phone. She could be on a tablet. We support all types of devices. Anything you can imagine, you can DocuSign using those devices. So she gets a secure email from DocuSign that has the message that I sent, welcome to Acme, we're excited that you're joining, and she gets a link to view the documents and sign them. Once she clicks that, she gets a whole bunch of reinforcing information. She knows that it's coming from Max Power. She gets the message, and this is what we call our DocuSign signing experience. Hopefully, many of you have tried this before, have some experience doing it, and you can see that it walks her through where to sign the document. So this is the employee handbook. She can scroll through it, read everything, and once she's done, she can easily enter her signature here. If she's never used DocuSign before, she can adopt a signature. So this is what her electronic signature is going to look like. She has a whole bunch of different styles she can choose from. You can spend a lot of time doing this. It's actually quite fun. But once she settles on one, she goes ahead, adopts and signs, and she's finished. Just like that, she's DocuSigned her employee handbook. She can create a DocuSign account and save that for the future. She can download a copy. For now, I'm going to go ahead and say no thanks. And once she's signed it, you'll see that she gets a copy in her email inbox. But more importantly, back in SharePoint, you can see, we can check the status. So Max is back in SharePoint. He sent this off to Maria. He's not sure when she signs it, but he can easily check the status of where things are by selecting the document and checking status. So you can see in the SharePoint status list, he has the employee handbook that was just sent out today at 10:14 a.m. Pacific, and this has been completed. Now he can view the signed copy of this document. So he can either open it or save it. So I'm going to open it. And here we go. This is the signed copy that Maria just did. It pulled in the date, her name automatically, and this is her signature. And back in SharePoint, you can see that the signed copy is going to be saved in a special folder called DocuSign Documents. You can configure that and save it wherever you want in SharePoint. But you can see that the signed copy has automatically been saved back to SharePoint. So now it's all back in that same system of record. Your processes are intact, and it's all where you want it to be, securely stored. So that's one workflow and one example of how you can use Office 365 plus DocuSign to embed into your existing processes, send documents out, and have them stored back into SharePoint. So now I want to show you one other example of where you can use DocuSign with Office 365. We started with SharePoint Online. Again, human resources is a very common use case, but something else that's extremely common we see is around sales contracts. So if I jump to my Outlook email inbox, one very common case is for people to get email attachments and want to sign those attachments. So this happens in my personal life all the time. I receive an email and it says, please sign this waiver form, or please sign this lease, or whatever it might be. And so instead of normally what I would have to do is either download, print, sign it, and then fax it back, or I would be able to download, upload to DocuSign, and then sign it via DocuSign. What we've done is built an add-in that plugs directly into Outlook and allows you to sign directly, email attachments sent directly to you straight from here. So what you'll see is if I open an email that has an attachment, you'll get this little app bar that says DocuSign. So when I open this app, you'll see that it loads DocuSign and it asks what I want to do. Who needs to sign this document? And the first thing that I need to decide is who needs to sign it. A lot of times it's going to be only me, but if for some reason you want other people to sign it, you can easily select me and others or only others and send that off for signature. And once you select only me, this is going to take you into that same experience that we saw for Maria, where you can add your signature and send that back to who sent this document, who sent the document to you. But I want to show you another flow that's pretty interesting and show you how you can also use templates and send from DocuSign directly from Outlook. And for that, I'm going to have a pre-filled email. This is an email that I've already started out with. But now I'm a contract specialist at Acme Corp, and I work with vendors all the time. So vendors send me contracts, and in that case, I would probably use that the experience that I just showed you, where you'd be able to sign attachments directly from Outlook that are sent to me. But sometimes I also need to send documents out for signature. So in this case, again, instead of having to go download documents, upload it in DocuSign, and go from there, I can do this all directly from Outlook. So you'll see that I have a simple email. I'm working with a vendor. Her name is Alice Palace, and I want to send her an NDA because we're going to form a partnership, and the first step in the partnership is to sign an NDA. So this NDA needs to go both to the vendor and also our internal general counsel. To do this, I'm going to use the DocuSign add-in from Outlook. So you see there's this add-ins bar up here, and I can add the DocuSign add-in. And what this is going to do is it's going to let me send this NDA out for signature straight from Outlook. So I can either upload that NDA straight from my desktop, or I can choose a template. And this is the same functionality that we saw before in SharePoint Online, where I have a predefined document, a predefined set of recipients, and I can just continue to use that easily without having to enter the same information again and again. So I'm going to start by choosing the mutual NDA. This is my standard document. Click Continue. And you'll see a couple of interesting things. So again, you have to tell DocuSign where you want to send the document. But since you're using this from Outlook and you've composed this email message, we know who you want to send it to. We know that you want to send it to Alice, and she's the customer. And we know that you want to send it to the general counsel. So we pull this information in straight from the email message, so you don't have to enter that information twice. Now you can add a message. Again, this actually comes from the template that you've set up. So because you're using a template can define a subject and message, and we're pulling that in again, so you don't have to re-enter that information again and again. And now you're ready to send the document. I can either preview it, go to DocuSign, make sure everything looks okay, or since I know I do this all the time, I've sent this template before, I can send the document straight from here. And what we see a lot of people doing, and what we've done here now is once you send the document out, we actually pre-populate this and let you know that that the documents are coming from DocuSign. And the reason we do this is a lot of times people, the customers or parties that you're working with don't necessarily know or don't necessarily expect something to come from DocuSign. They expect something to come from acme.com. So this is just a nice way for you to let Alice know that she'll receive the NDA from DocuSign instead of straight from me. So it's just another form of reassurance to her that, that she shouldn't just ignore that email. And we see a lot of people using that, doing that use case. So if I go to Alice again, she'll receive that NDA, and she'll be able to sign it just like Maria was. So that's the flow and a couple of demos of showing DocuSign for Outlook and DocuSign for SharePoint Online. We do support several other applications and several other form factors. So if we So we support, so you saw Outlook and SharePoint, but we also have an add-in for Word. But more importantly, we support many different form factors and many different platforms. So I showed you I showed you Outlook and SharePoint Online from Windows. But we also support Macs. So if you or your users are using Macs, our apps work across platforms, so Windows, Mac, and also mobile. So the Office Suite is extremely popular on iPads. A lot of people are using iPads and Surfaces and mobile devices. So our add-ins will work wherever Office works. So again, we want to be wherever you are and on whichever devices that you're using. So even though I showed the demo here, we have great support across anything that you could possibly be using. And with that, I'll pass it back to Jamie.
Thank you very much, Narain. I really hope everyone enjoyed those demos. I thought they were fantastic. Just to quickly kind of wrap on what we hope you saw, hopefully you saw through these demos how these add-ins can help both improve the productivity of your employees. You saw from what Narain showed how you can eliminate paper, make that fully digital experience. You saw there was nothing in there where he had to press the print button or mail anything or fax anything. Hopefully you can understand and translate that to how it would improve your business in terms of reducing the cost and speeding up that turnaround time. And also, you know, it was clear in what he showed how it's very conveniently presented as part of the user experience within Word, within Outlook, within SharePoint. So it makes it very easy and convenient for your employees to send and sign things right from where they're already working. And then finally, of course, the fact that you can centrally and securely manage all those company agreements. You saw with when the employee handbook came back and it was stored securely right there in SharePoint Online. That's, you know, it ensures that you have the confidence that those business agreements that you and your employees are signing will always be centrally stored and controlled and managed by your company and not hidden somewhere in a file cabinet that is impossible to find. So to wrap things up, we just wanted to open up one more poll question. So now that you've seen these add-ins in action, now that you've heard a little bit more about them from me, we'd love to get input from you guys and feedback on, of these add-ins, which ones do you think are the most interesting to you, given your company's unique needs? We've got the SharePoint Online add-in, the Outlook add-in, the Word add-in that you saw from Narain, SharePoint on-premise as well, Dynamics CRM, and finally Windows, which is both a mobile app and a desktop app. So we're curious to hear feedback from the group on which ones of all of these that seem the most relevant to you. And I'm assuming that this will largely be driven by the apps that you're using most frequently, and using most frequently, particularly with documents. So, Word is one where people often create documents. So we see a lot of interest in that add-in, particularly from legal departments and et cetera that are originating documents. SharePoint is where a lot of people store documents. So we often see a lot of interest from customers that use SharePoint to store their company documents like employee handbooks, like HR documents, et cetera. So it looks like, looking at the results, that's pretty consistent across the board. A lot of interest in SharePoint and Outlook, and some interest as well in SharePoint on-prem and Dynamics. So that's great. Thank you guys so much for providing that feedback. Now I wanted to end finally with one quick last story. I shared a couple examples of how customers are using DocuSign, but this one is specifically about a company using the DocuSign SharePoint Online and Word add-ins that you saw today or heard about today. That's Expedia Cruise Ship Centers. They're a Canadian company, and they have I think it's well over 3,000 franchise locations across North America, and they sell cruise lines or cruise vacations to customers. And they're using Office 365 with these franchise locations, and every year they have to renew a contract with all of these franchise locations. And so they're leveraging these add-ins to do that process. And as by leveraging DocuSign, they've been able to achieve some significant results that you can see here on the screen. So over $1 million in anticipated savings over a 3-year period. They've decreased that turnaround time for those agreements and contracts by 10 times. And then every agreement, by doing it in DocuSign, they're saving up to $76 per agreement and per document. So you can imagine all those documents that you have at your company that you're sending in for signature or approval. $76 for each one of those is the potential savings, at least that Expedia Cruise Ship Center is seeing. So it's a pretty cool, I think, example of the possible benefits that companies are recognizing through these integrations. So how to get started, I think, one of the things we hear from folks are the options and the potential with DocuSign can be pretty endless. There's paper in so many different areas of a company and a business. It can almost be a bit daunting. So we summarized a few of the most popular examples of how customers are using these add-ins in their business. So you saw a couple of them in the demo already. So the sales contracts is a great example, either through CRM or through Outlook. HR is another really popular one, as you saw the onboarding example, the recruiting, and the offer letter example as well. Procurement is a common area that people get started in, supplier agreements, POs, SOWs. Legal, as I mentioned, particularly with Word, is a really common use case. Wealth management advisors and insurance, from an industry perspective, there's a ton of traction there that we see with customers. And then real estate and life sciences are two other industries that have got a lot of opportunity for leveraging DocuSign to manage and store consent documents that are required, for example, or for complex workflows and agreements like in real estate. So hopefully this gives you some ideas on jump-starting how the brainstorming process on how you could leverage DocuSign at your company. So what to go do now? So hopefully you've seen these apps and you've gotten excited about how you can use them at your company. You want to get started. The great news is you can get started, and you can get started for free pretty easily and pretty quickly. In the Office Store, which you can access either at store.office.com or through your Office 365 portal, the apps are available there, and they've got a free trial. So if you're new to DocuSign, you want to test it out and try it out, download those applications, those add-ins. They're free to download. Get started with a trial. And then once you're ready to move forward, just contact us to talk about your options for your company. And you can contact us at the phone number there, or also through our website, or through, if you already have an existing relationship with DocuSign, by contacting that representative. So we want to end by thanking you all so much for joining us today. I know everyone is very busy, so we really appreciate your time. Hopefully this was educational for you. Hopefully it was inspirational for you. We want to now open up the floor for questions. So we've got a couple already coming in. Please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your window there to enter in your questions. So what I'll do here is get started with a few. So it looks like we've got a question about what if we have customers that have internal policies that require wet signatures? So that's a great question. You know, we do hear that sometimes from customers, although we always like to challenge everyone because there's nothing that should require a wet signature that can't be done through DocuSign. But if that's the case, DocuSign does enable you to have the option to wet sign the customers to wet sign something and fax it back if that is required. So we can definitely accommodate that that functionality as well. So another question came through, does DocuSign work on all my devices? So yes, as Narain kind of emphasized towards the end of his demo, DocuSign works across multiple different form factors and multiple different operating systems. And that's from both the sender side, so if you're the one actually creating an envelope, using these add-ins, that's the case, and also from a signer side. So you can be confident and know that if you're sending a DocuSign envelope to a customer or to an employee, no matter what they're using to access their email, they'll be able to sign via DocuSign and send it back to you. Okay, here's another one. So does the receiver have to be a DocuSign or Office 365 customer to sign or approve? So I'm going to ask Narain to chime in on this one.
Absolutely not. Signing is always free. Anybody, whether or not they're a DocuSign customer, can, like you saw in the demo that I showed, Maria was not a DocuSign user, but she was able to sign an envelope. Right. All right, I got another question. Where can I get these add-ins and how can I get started? So there's a couple of places you can get started. The best place is to go to the Office store. So if you go to store.office.com or access the add-ins menu through any of the apps, Outlook, Word, or SharePoint, you can search for DocuSign and find them there. Find our add-ins there, and it's a one-click install, extremely easy to get started. You can also go to the DocuSign homepage and find links to our add-ins there as well.
We've got another question through the console. So can you send a DocuSign request to a distribution list and receive multiple signatures back? So yes, DocuSign has a feature called bulk send where you can send to a distribution list or to a list of different recipients, and they can all sign and reply back if that's what you're referring to. We also have another functionality where you can, you know, if you need someone from an alias to sign and you just need one person to sign, there's a way that we enable that as well via a feature in our app. So there's a lot of different flexibility around the workflows that match to what you need for your business. One more question, it looks like. Can you integrate DocuSign with other systems? That's a really great question. As you saw today, you know, we've pre-built some of these integrations for the solutions that we know that people are using often and frequently in their everyday lives. But we often have customers that have very specific custom requirements and solutions that they're using, and they want to build kind of end-to-end seamless processes across multiple different back-end systems, and that's definitely doable. We have a very open and extensible API framework so that you can either yourself internally or leveraging a third party or working with DocuSign, build out a very custom integrated flow to match your requirements for your business. So that's absolutely doable. Okay, so I think that's all the time we have for questions. For those of you with questions we haven't addressed, please email them to webinar@docusign.com. and we will follow up with you after today's webinar. I would like to thank Narain and each of you for attending today. We will be sending you a follow-up email after this presentation with contact information and a link to the recorded webinar. If you have any questions in the future, you can again send an email to webinar@docusign.com. Thank you again for participating. And I hope you will have a great remainder of the day.